Released by Capcom in 1996 on the PC and PlayStation, and ported and remade across many platforms, series creator Shinji Mikami would take an intended remake of Sweet Home on the Famicom and turn it into an icon for the modern survival horror genre. While not the first survival horror game, Resident Evil adopted successful elements from previous games like Alone in the Dark and Clock Tower and blended them with cinematic techniques from classic horror films such as tilted, low angle, high angle, point of view, and over-the-shoulder camera shots, as well as strategic lighting and visibility. In addition, common frightful creatures such as dogs, snakes, spiders, sharks, and zombies would be blended into many iconic horror cliché characters, sound cues, and locales, such as a haunted mansion, forest, graveyard, library, attic, caves, and evil laboratory. Combined with being among the first console games to feature full voice acting and a multi-layered plot with a large cast of characters, Resident Evil set series standards of limited resources, health and save points, the ability to play two possible characters with very different abilities, multiple endings, secrets and unlockables, and deadly puzzles and enemies. Keep in mind, the game has been re-released and revised through a 2002 GameCube remake that retconned the story to work with the overall timeline and is now the new official canon. In addition, the understood canon of the game is that both paths are canon, and so this will be a recap of Chris's story overlaid by Jill's. The story only gets larger from here, so let's cut it down to size with a recapitation. On July 24, 1998, after several grisly murders in the forest northwest of Raccoon City, the Raccoon City Police Department sent in the Special Tactics and Rescue Service, STARS, to investigate. However, Bravo Team disappeared in the middle of their mission, and now Alpha Team is sent in to find out what happened. This adds to the concern within the city in response to several murders in which the victims were apparently eaten. Fortunately, they find Bravo Team's helicopter, though it's been damaged and abandoned short of the body of its dead pilot. Alpha Team, which consists of its leader Albert Wesker and members Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Barry Burton, Brad Vickers, and Joseph Frost, continue tracking the trail of Bravo Team on foot. Joseph hears something and is immediately mauled by a pack of dogs. The rest of the team sees there's something wrong about these vicious dogs, however the pack turns to the rest of the team and gives chase. Their helicopter pilot Brad panics and flees with their ride, abandoning the team, as Wesker directs them all through a fighting retreat towards a mansion in the middle of the woods. As the door to safety closes behind them, Jill, Barry, and Wesker catch their breath and note that Chris isn't with them. A nearby gunshot calls their attention as they wonder if that's Chris in trouble, though unbeknownst to them, Bravo team member Kenneth is fighting for his life as he's being devoured by a monster. Wesker has Jill go in and investigate while he secures this area, and Barry volunteers to back Jill up. They enter the dining room together and Barry notes a puddle of blood, choosing to stop and investigate while Jill moves on ahead. In the hallway beyond, Jill witnesses something eating into the corpse of Kenneth, and as it turns around, Jill sees it's some sort of flesh-eating monster. Retreating back to Barry, Barry guns down at their attacker and they choose to report this discovery to Wesker. Meanwhile, Chris is exploring outside the mansion and hears a garbled message by Wesker over his walkie-talkie. Wesker, however, is nowhere to be found by Jill and Barry, and they opt to split up and look for him too. Barry chooses to head back to the dining room and gives Jill a lockpick set to complement her masterful unlocking skills and enable her to search the rest of the first floor. As Jill and Chris separately explore in and around the mansion, they find many notes and reports on events detailing how the people who once resided here were actually scientists working on illegal and inhumane experiments, which had gone awry. The mansion, built for the Spencer family in 1967, contains many strange machinations and secrets as noted from the mansion's original architect, George Trevor. It's also revealed that to tie up loose ends, they even left George to die in its hidden labyrinths and seized his wife Jessica and daughter Lisa, as the first tortured test subjects with a new type of virus, the progenitor virus. As Jill is adjusting to the zombies lurking everywhere, Chris is jumped and knocked out in the employee dormitories. He comes to face with a manacled, tattered woman wearing multiple skins of faces over her own. She is abnormally strong and a single shot does little but to expose her as beyond human. With no other choice, Chris is forced to escape. Meanwhile, deeper in the house, Jill gears up, though triggers a falling ceiling trap. Fortunately, Barry is not far as he rescues her from a crushing demise. Jill is grateful but curious as to why Barry was over near her when he said he was going to investigate the opposite half of the house, but Barry gives an evading answer. Later, after finding some more armaments himself, Chris investigates a crypt and discovers a coffin that he accidentally gets sealed up with. The inhabitant is a monster called a Crimson Head, the next stage of progression for a zombie that has not had its head destroyed, and has had enough time for the virus within to advance it with increased strength, health, and resilience. Defeating it, he moves on. Jill, meanwhile, encounters an out-of-place Barry again, this time on a balcony, in which he shows her the remains of another Bravo team member, Forrest, who was apparently torn up by the hostile crows they've seen in the area and left behind his grenade launcher. Back with Chris, he receives a transmission from Brad over the radio, but finds he cannot send a response back. As he ducks into nearby lodging to dodge a strange number of snakes, he's startled by strange tentacles seizing him from the floor, though stumbles upon two surviving members of Bravo team, Richard and Rebecca. Rebecca Chambers, the team medic, explains that Richard was bitten by a snake, but a colossal one by the looks of the bite mark. He's in need of a serum to counter the snake bite, and Chris volunteers to retrieve it. He does so, and while Richard falls unconscious, they opt to move him to a safer room to recover. Richard is back up on his feet and helps out, though after more exploration reveals a partially submerged testing area, Richard sacrificed himself to a mutated shark as it was about to devour Chris. Finding the controls to the room, Chris drains the room and eliminates any further threats. Jill, meanwhile, continues moving up through the mansion, encountering the massive snake that bit Richard earlier, though a few rounds of her grenade launcher sends it running away, but not before she collapses due to a snakebite herself. Chris, however, finds the source of his earlier tentacles as belonging to a massive plant monster, grown sentient and behemoth after absorbing the same virus-tainted water the sharks mutated in as well. Rebecca rushes in to help a captured Chris, but Chris tosses her lab notes he picked up earlier, which contains a chemical formula that can weaken the plant. Rebecca hurries to prepare and administer the mixture to the roots of the plant, which works immediately. Working quickly, Chris weeds out the overgrown menace and apologizes to Rebecca for Richard's death. Rebecca understands and informs Chris that the labs here were all well stocked by Umbrella, the local pharmaceutical company, who develops a lot of their main products here in Raccoon City. As Jill comes to, thanks to Barry rescuing her, she overhears Barry talking to someone and inquires about it when he steps out. Barry tries again to evade by insisting he was just talking to himself and excuses himself to go get some fresh air elsewhere. Meanwhile, Chris runs into Wesker, and he's surprised to see Chris still alive. Chris asks where Jill is, and Wesker states they got separated. Wesker orders Chris to investigate further into the mansion while he secures the area, and Chris agrees, heading off. However, a new menace invades the mansion as a short, bulky creature called him Hunter leaps and bounds towards him, nearly decapitating him with its oversized claws. Further on, Forrest reanimates just after Chris discovers him, and he's forced to put down an old ally. Descending in an elevator, Jill discovers an old mining tunnel, and she is beckoned over by Enrico, the missing captain of Bravo team. He's injured and reveals to her that someone is a traitor within STARS, and the Umbrella Corporation set them all up. Given how the list of suspects is shrinking, he is about to reveal the traitor, but he's shot and killed before he can say any more. Jill doesn't catch who did it, instead being forced to dodge a deadly boulder trap and needing to kill a massive monster spider in order to proceed. Soon enough, she encounters Barry again, right before taking an elevator further down. Jill takes point while Barry hangs back, and Jill then encounters the monstrous woman from before. Being forced back like Chris, she is shocked to see Barry leaving her behind to die and taking the elevator up. Chris, meanwhile, deals with the snake that bit Richard as well as he passes through the library and hears a scream not far away. He hurries and is just in time to discover Rebecca as a hunter encroaches upon her. As it turns out, these creatures, like the Crimson Head zombies, know how to open doors and pursue their victims. He saves her and tells her they need to find the others, though he'll go on ahead for now and make a safe path. Back with Jill, she's forced to contend with the creature, and after stunning it, she ducks into a sealed room that is oddly decorated like a little girl's room. She finds more notes detailing the tragedy of the Trevor family, as Jessica Trevor did not survive the experiments Umbrella put her through, and their daughter Lisa has survived these past 30 years as the first subject of the progenitor virus, or T-virus, now an undying abomination and progenitor for the Crimson Heads. As she emerges from the other side, she finds Barry about to unlock something, who is surprised to see her still alive, and pulls a gun on her, though Jill is quicker to disarm him and reverse the situation for some answers. They are interrupted as the monstrous woman comes in and blocks their way out now. Barry pleads for his gun back and Jill complies, allowing him to assist her in fighting off his threat once more. They uncover the sarcophagus in the room, which prompts the monster to cry out for Mother, claim the skull within, and leap away on its own, confirming the identity of this monster to actually be the tragic Lisa Trevor. Beyond, she finds a fountain passageway leading down to the real experimental labs of Spencer Mansion, where horrible humanoid spiders are the first creatures to welcome her. Along the way, Barry reunites with her. Chris and Rebecca are not far behind, as they also enter the underground labs and are first to discover Wesker tasking away at a console in a lab. Wesker doesn't seem too surprised to see them, and as he pulls a gun on them, Jill and Barry come in, though Barry now pulls a gun on Jill again. Wesker explains that Barry isn't wholly to blame, as he's been manipulating him by holding his wife and two daughters hostage. Chris confronts Wesker on his betrayal to Umbrella, but Wesker corrects him, stating he's always been with Umbrella as one of the lead researchers on the T-Virus. However, he was tasked with covering up the incident in the mansion and chose to use stars as test subjects for combat data. He shoots Rebecca to solidify his story, orders Barry away to the roof, and beats down Jill and Chris, and states he's going on his own now. Double-crossing Umbrella, Wesker says he'll burn everything here and keep everything valuable for himself, unveiling his trump card he calls the ultimate life form, Tyrant. However, as he is observing and admiring the creature as it wakes up out of stasis, Tyrant smashes through the glass and impales Wesker, stepping out and tossing the corpse of the traitor aside. Chris and Jill combat Tyrant and succeed in incapacitating the monster. Barry now returns, seeking forgiveness for his actions, though Jill understands it was really Wesker and Umbrella to blame. Chris tends to Rebecca, who turns out was only knocked out as she was fortunately wearing a bulletproof vest when she was shot. Rebecca finds a file that reveals there are more Tyrant samples here, but also a self-destruct mechanism for the whole estate. Meanwhile, Jill catches another message from Brad, who is still hovering outside and looking for a sign of anyone still alive. Chris and Barry hold off pursuing monsters, while Rebecca is sent to activate the self-destruct sequence and Jill is sent to the roof to fire off signal flares to call back Brad. The flares are out and the self-destruct sequence is set, but before they are home free, the roof bursts open and Tyrant comes out, knocking aside Chris with a single swipe. Brad swings in and drops off a rocket launcher for Jill, which, despite the persistence of the Tyrant, is blown to pieces. As the game ends, Rebecca now catches up with the group as Brad flies in to pick up all 4 of them. Behind them, the mansion is demolished by a massive explosion, and though the team members are all exhausted by their night of nightmares, it seems something has still survived. Resident Evil has enjoyed the success of selling over 11 million copies worldwide.
I got a shotgun.
Chris Redfield. Jill Valentine. Barry Burton. Rebecca Chambers. Albert Wesker. Biohazard.